This page is the front cover of issue 41, prominently featuring Link from the second N64 Zelda game, Majora's Mask, showcasing updated visuals. The magazine boasts an E3 report covering over 50 revealed N64 games, highlighting Nintendo's strong upcoming library. Key features include the UK release of Rare's Perfect Dark, the excellent racer Excitebike 64, the visually impressive Dinosaur Planet, which was later moved to the GameCube, and Rare's surprising adult platformer Conker's Bad Fur Day. There's also a free guide for the timeless classic GoldenEye 007. This page is an advert for Cheats Unlimited, offering cheats for loads of consoles, including all your N64 favorites. It also promotes a subscription to 64 magazine with a cracking deal, giving you free N64 games like GoldenEye and Banjo-Kazooie, plus free strategy books for classics like Zelda 64. You can see screenshots of Zero X, Mario Kart, 1080 snowboarding, and F1 World Grand Prix. This page serves as the magazine's contents, previewing articles on Excitebike 64, Perfect Dark, the Japanese follow-up to Zelda Ocarina of Time, Dinosaur Planet, and a look at the upcoming Nintendo Dolphin console. This page kicks off the magazine with an editorial looking back at E3, fondly called the 7th level of hell, and mentions getting Hansen with the import version of Zelda, Majora's Mask and Perfect Dark. It also notes Roy Kimber is stepping up as editor. The news section covers various bits, including the European Commission looking into Nintendo for price fixing, Silicon Knights teaming up with Nintendo of America for Eternal Darkness on the future Dolphin console, and a new computer games design course at the University of Essex, complete with a picture of Pierce Brosnan as Bond. Midway is bringing their greatest arcade hits Volume 1 to N64, featuring classics like Joust and Defender. There's also news about the singer of the Pokémon theme song suing over payment, shown alongside some Pokémon characters like Pikachu and Charizard. Stunt Racer 64 has been cancelled, with Midway's Rush 2049 stepping in, and you can see screenshots of the racing action. Finally, there's a big advert for John Romero's first-person shooter, Daikatana, showcasing the characters and some shots from the game, announcing its release on 64 and coming to Game Boy. The next page provides the Game Watch, which is the essential guide to upcoming N64 releases, listing expected dates for UK games highlighted in yellow, though it warns that dates can shift, just like they did for Perfect Dark. Down at the bottom you get a look at some cracking games with screenshots for Resident Evil 0, which was slated but sadly never made it to the N64, alongside StarCraft 64, Zelda, Majora's Mask, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Banjo-Tooie, and Excitebike 64. Readers expressed their opinions on 64 games and the magazine's coverage. Discussions include excitement for anticipated games like Dragon Sword, concern over cancellations due to production costs, and frustration with release delays, specifically for Conker's Bad Hair Day and Perfect Dark. The magazine defends these delays, citing the need for polish and hinting at exciting features in Conker. Game difficulty is also debated, with praise for Perfect Dark's scalable settings. Other topics include the correction of a previous error, and inquiries about a potential N64 port of Soldier of Fortune. The page is visually rich, featuring character images, game screenshots, and a prize announcement for the star letter. This page is all about Top Gear Hyperbike. It covers this motorbike racer, which stood out from the usual motocross games on the N64 at the time. It highlights that the game offers a mix of street racing, like zooming through Florence, and off-road tracks, such as the Egyptian ruins and Redwood Forest. The game isn't just about realistic racing, it includes arcade-style power-ups and big jumps. You can race real-world bikes from manufacturers like Honda, Kawasaki, and Yamaha, and you even get the option to customize the color of your ride at a spray shop. The screenshots show the variety of locations and racing styles, from city streets to dusty deserts and muddy forests, along with the in-game HUD showing speed, position, and the minimap. It also features those collectible colored orbs you had to grab on the track. The developers were Snowblind, with Kemco publishing, and the UK release was listed as TBC. This page finishes up the preview for Top Gear Hyperbike. It mentions the useful track editor feature, which lets you build tracks easily from an oval shape. It also highlights time attack mode, better graphics with the N64 expansion pack, and 4-player multiplayer. Keep an eye out for the full review. The rest of the page is a big advert for South Park Rally, a racing game that brings the crude humor of the show to the N64, with the main characters in their various vehicles. This page gives us a look at Dinosaur Planet, Rare's huge adventure title that was deep in development for the N64. It was looking absolutely stunning back then, featuring two main characters, Saber and Crystal, in a cinematic story with voice acting, and plenty of puzzles alongside companions like Prince Tricky. The visuals and environments shown, like the waterfalls and volcanic areas, were really pushing what the N64 could do. This game was shaping up to be one of the system's finest, promising two full adventures rolled into one epic quest. Of course, it famously never came out on the N64, instead making the jump to the GameCube as Star Fox Adventures, but you could see the potential was massive. Rare's Conker's Bad Fur Day, a mature title for the N64, delivered on its promise with adult humor, violence, and memorable moments. Players controlled a hungover squirrel, navigating mayhem with excellent graphics and character animations. The game was aimed at mature audiences and was set for a December release. Also previewed was Silicon Knight's Eternal Darkness, a promising horror game with a unique premise. The game featured a third-person perspective and a free camera, playing as different characters across time fighting an ancient evil. The game's insanity meter offered a unique twist. While promising for the N64, the game ultimately moved to the GameCube. This page features a preview of Star Wars Episode 1, Battle for Naboo. You step into the shoes of Lieutenant Gavin Sykes, a pilot joining the rebellion against the Trade Federation invasion of Naboo. The game takes place concurrently with the film, but tells an entirely new story across 16 missions, letting you pilot various vehicles on the ground, sea and air, to fight battle droids and tanks. They mention controlling iconic craft like the N1 Starfighter, and even a Trade Federation gunboat, plus a Gungan sub-like vessel shown in a screenshot. It's highlighted that the game features a dynamic difficulty system, getting tougher as you get better. Being made by the team behind Rogue Squadron, there were high hopes for this one, and it did indeed come out on the N64. The screenshots show some battle droid action, a glimpse of the yellow N1, the Gungan craft, and some character artwork of Queen Amidala. The rest of the page is a big sales advert from Gameplay.com for various N64 consoles, games, and accessories. This page is a big feature on The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. Looking at the Japanese import version of the game, the magazine staff faced a challenge reviewing it properly due to the language barrier, so they put together this preview instead. It covers the opening of the game, with Link losing Epona and encountering the mysterious mask thief. It highlights the game's core mechanics, like the 3-day time limit, and Link's ability to transform using masks, specifically showing him as a Deku Scrub. Screenshots showcase various moments from the game, including combat with returning enemies like Skulltulas, and glimpses of the creepy Majora's Mask itself. Roy Kimber, the deputy editor, shares his thoughts on the excitement surrounding the game and how, even without full understanding, the quality shines through, anticipating a great UK release. It confirms this was a highly anticipated sequel to Ocarina of Time, and it certainly delivered when it eventually came out in English, bringing its unique time loop and transformation gameplay to the N64. This page continues the in-depth look at the Japanese import of The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. It follows Link's initial encounter with the masked thief, showing him transformed into a Deku Scrub, highlighting his new abilities like flying with flowers. The crucial 3-day time limit is explained, a defining feature of this title that sets it apart from its predecessor. There are screenshots showing various aspects of the gameplay, from battling enemies like the masked thief and Skulltulas, to Link riding Epona and the eerie close-up of the moon. The article also touches on discovering helpful fairies and items. Contributors Martin and Russell share their thoughts on the game, impressed by its quality even in Japanese and the new challenge it offers. Russell particularly praises it as possibly the greatest game ever made, acknowledging the language barrier but finding the core gameplay evident. Martin is eager for the English translation, and North Cheshire Wall. The feature also speculates on the identity of the masked figure, and draws a comparison to Alice in Wonderland regarding Link's fall into a strange world. This was such a unique and exciting sequel, and seeing these early impressions just brings back how anticipated the UK release was. It definitely delivered on its promise of a different kind of Zelda adventure. This overview of the Japanese version of The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask focuses on Link's transformation into a Deku Scrub after encountering a masked thief. It showcases the visual and gameplay changes, including Link's altered abilities and struggles in his new form. The narrative includes flashbacks to Link's past with Princess Zelda. A key element highlighted is the game's oppressive atmosphere, and the time limit, a crucial mechanic that compresses 3 in-game days into 45 real-time minutes. The text explores alternative instruments, and how fairies grant new abilities. Early impressions from staff members, including Mike and Nick, praised the graphics challenge and innovative mask-based transformation system, suggesting a unique and engaging experience. This page continues the look at The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask, diving into some of the early game activities. It starts by showing the hide-and-go-seek puzzle in Clock Town, where you have to find the members of the Bomber's gang, leading to them revealing a numerical code on their shirts. The game then prompts you to enter this number to progress, with a small guard boy blocking the way until you do. The page touches on the different forms Link takes, noting the masked thief, Skull Kid, and the inability to use a sword as a Deku scrub. It reiterates the day/night cycle and how different creatures and townspeople appear depending on the time, reinforcing the crucial 3-day time limit. The Song of Time is highlighted as the means to reset the cycle and gain more time, a vital mechanic for surviving the impending moon crash. It also covers the path to the observatory, mentioning meeting the windmill guy from Ocarina of Time, and using the telescope to spot the Skull Kid before witnessing something fall from the moon. Finally, it shows the mysterious Happy Mask salesman, and hints at obtaining the Bomber's notebook, which is apparently used for scheduling or tracking things. The text emphasizes that even after significant playtime, you'll feel like you've barely scratched the surface, hinting at the game's depth. This page continues the feature on Zelda: Majora's Mask, highlighting the transformative power of the masks, specifically the Deku mask obtained early on. It explains how these masks don't just change Link's appearance, but grant him entirely new abilities essential for progress, unlike the masks in Ocarina of Time, which were more cosmetic. The article mentions that masks like the Deku, Goron, and Zora masks cause a physical change in Link. Several screenshots demonstrate this, showing Link in his Deku form navigating areas he couldn't before, like getting up a ladder. Another image shows the fairy Tattle lighting up a scene at night. The text reinforces the game's depth, noting there are around 30 masks with different uses and that even significant playtime feels like only scratching the surface, dispelling rumors about the N64's decline. There's also an advert for Retrox, a retro game exchange, SwapServe for swapping and selling games online, GameStar listing a range of N64 games and accessories with prices, and a contact for advertising in the magazine. This page covers 64 Magazine's report, live from E3 in Los Angeles, showcasing some of the hottest Nintendo games. There are previews for Mickey's Speedway USA, a kart racer from Rare, filled with power-ups set across various Rinus locations, feeling much like a refined Diddy Kong Racing with Disney characters. Also previewed is Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine, an adventure game ported from the PC, where Indy searches for pieces of an ancient machine, tackling puzzles and enemies in classic Tomb Raider style but with a bit more grit. The page also highlights some big reveals from the show, including Rare's secret project, Dinosaur Planet, which would eventually evolve into Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube, the notoriously adult Conker's Bad Fur Day, which certainly raised eyebrows, the intriguing horror adventure Eternal Darkness, which later appeared on the GameCube, and the racer Star Wars Episode 1, Battle for Naboo. Several screenshots of the games and photos from the show floor are scattered across the page, and there's a big list noting many other N64 titles that were being shown at the event. The E3 report continues, focusing on upcoming N64 titles. Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine promises classic whip action and jeep sequences. Banjo-Tooie expands on its predecessor with a split-up mechanic. Mario Tennis offers realistic physics and chaotic gameplay. Resident Evil Zero, a prequel, was sadly destined for GameCube instead. Turok 3, The Shadow of Oblivion boasts time travel and new characters. Paper Mario, Mario Story, features a unique 2D and 3D style RPG experience. The World Is Not Enough, a Bond title, evolves GoldenEye with movie-based levels. Pokémon Puzzle League provides a Pokémon-themed Tetris attack experience. Finally, Mega Man 64, based on Mega Man Legends, brings graphical improvements to the N64. Numerous screenshots showcased the diverse game lineup. This E3 report highlights several upcoming N64 games. Hey You Pikachu allowed players to interact with Pikachu using voice recognition. Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker from Kemco, is a beat-em-up based on the animated series. Scooby-Doo, Classic Creep Capers from THQ, is a 3D adventure game based on the cartoon. X-Men, Mutant Academy by Activision, is a 3D fighting game featuring popular X-Men characters. Finally, Ulden Chronicles by THQ, a confirmed UK release, is a role-playing game, offering a different genre experience for the console, blending real-time and turn-based combat. This E3 report highlights several upcoming N64 titles. Ms. Pac-Man. Maze Madness brings the classic character into 3D with a quest adventure. Polaris Snowcross offers fast-paced snowmobile racing. Power Rangers. Lightspeed Rescue, based on the TV series, targets a younger audience. Roswell Conspiracies. Alien Myths and Legends is a third-person action game based on the cartoon. A Best of the Rest section mentions numerous other games. These include Army Men Sarge's Heroes 2, Cat Roots, Donald Duck, Quack Attack, Looney Tunes, Duck Dodgers, Indy Racing 2000, Madden NFL 2001, NFL Blitz 2001, MIA Ham 64, Ogre Battle 64, Rally Challenge 2000, Rugrats in Paris, StarCraft 64, Tom and Jerry, and WWF No Mercy. These games span genres from platformers and racing to sports and fighting games, showcasing a diverse lineup for the console. This page dives into the Spring Tokyo Game Show. Apparently N64 wasn't massively featured there, mostly down to Nintendo holding their big announcements for their own Space World show later on. The main N64 highlight, and the only game specifically called out with a screenshot, was Capcom's Resident Evil 0. What a game that looked, a true part of the Resident Evil story, and looking absolutely gorgeous. It was at E3 too, but sadly, it never saw the light of day on the N64 platform in the end, which was a real shame. Capcom certainly went all out at the show though, with folks dressed up in Resident Evil gear and even a stand selling replica guns from the game. Outside of the booths, the show was buzzing, especially with the massive cosplay scene, highlighted in the crazy clothes show section, with fans showing off costumes of all sorts of game characters. This page features an in-depth look at Nintendo's upcoming console, codenamed Dolphin, the successor to the N64. It covers the big announcement back in 1999 that sent tingles through gamers. There's talk about the tight secrecy, and even speculation about the final name, like the rumored Star Cube, showing off a potential logo design. The technical details revealed sound hugely impressive for the time, especially the powerful Gecko CPU and RTX GPU, the significant memory, and the move to a DVD format which offered a massive boost in storage and transfer speeds compared to what we were used to. They even show the potential polygon power being a huge leap forward. Crucially, it highlights the growing support from third-party developers, mentioning key players like Rare, Retro Studios, Factor 5, and Silicon Knights, and notes Ubisoft having a number of games in the works. We get a look at some early planned titles too, like Climax Studios' realistic boxing sim title Defense Boxing, and their intense racing game Stunt Driver, plus Promethean Design's unique art thief game Picasso, each shown with a screenshot. It's interesting to look back, as sadly none of these specific titles actually saw release on the final console, which is a shame as they sounded quite promising. The page also shows a prototype image of the sleek-looking console itself, with a demo disc loaded. This page continues the deep dive into the Nintendo Dolphin console. We get previews of a few potential titles, like Rainbow Six, Urban Operations from Sapphire, aiming to bring the tactical shooter into crowded city spaces, shown with a few screenshots. Sapphire also had Young Olympians planned, a two-player third-person adventure based on novels, set in ancient Greece with selectable god offspring characters, complete with a character screenshot. Titus Robocop is also mentioned as a possibility, with a futuristic city screenshot. Beyond the games, there's chatter about Nintendo's push into online gaming for the Dolphin, with rumors of a console coming with voice communication hardware. There's also exciting talk of potential motion sensing technology built into the official controller, which would have been revolutionary at the time. The feature also covers the DVD drive, noting that playing standard movie DVDs wasn't planned initially, though a later version released in Japan did offer this functionality. The page features a large image of a sleek, futuristic prototype console, hinting at the final design. Finally, there's a section listing a whole host of rumored and confirmed games that were supposedly in development, showing the strong early support the system had. This page dives straight into the Nintendo 64 reviews. The headline feature is Excitebike 64, presented as the premier Supercross title for the console, promising the feel of the wind and mud. Screenshots showcase the intense dirt bike racing action. The magazine lays out its comprehensive review system, explaining the various boxes covering game details like player count and peripheral pack support, alongside a detailed breakdown of how they score graphics, audio, gameplay, and challenge to arrive at the final score. Also featured briefly are mentions of Jeremy McGrath's Supercross from Acclaim, another off-road motorbike offering, and an important UK update confirming that Rare's highly anticipated masterpiece, which was Perfect Dark, was finally making its way to the UK. There's also a handy guide explaining the functions of the N64 controller buttons for newcomers. Excitebike 64 builds upon the NES classic, successfully translating the 2D gameplay into a 3D environment. The game retains the importance of speed control for successful jumps and avoids crashes. Left Field Studios is praised for the enhanced racing engine with excellent control and a solid frame rate. The review highlights the training mode's importance for learning complex controls and tricks. Stunts are visually impressive and earn points. Screenshots showcase the game, including racing, stunts, training, controller options and multiplayer. The Ninfo box confirms 4-player support, expansion pack and rumble pack usage, and details about the publisher, developer, price and origin. The multiplayer is fast-paced and fun. The controller setup is intuitive, resulting in a highly customizable and exciting experience. This page continues the review of Excitebike 64, diving deeper into the game's content. The tracks are highlighted as superbly detailed, with over 20 different courses offering variety including tunnels, bridges, and water hazards. The gameplay focuses on mastering jumps and corners using the turbo boost, which can cause your engine to overheat if used excessively. Completing championship seasons unlock secret stages and training sessions. The review also mentions bonus features like Football Fever, a special football game where players nudge a ball with their bikes, unlocked by winning championship rounds. A major highlight is the inclusion of the original NES Excitebike in full color, unlocked by completing training tests. An enhanced 3D version of the NES game is also available upon completing the Gold Championship season. The game features a built-in track editor, allowing players to create their own courses. Screenshots throughout the page illustrate the different environments and gameplay, from night races and desert jumps, to the bonus football mode and views of the original NES game. They also show different perspectives and stunt opportunities. The variety of content and track design are clearly key points being emphasized. The next page wraps up the look at Excitebike 64. It really was a pleasant surprise, building on the NES classic with fantastic 3D graphics and physics that captured the feel of motocross brilliantly. It touches on the track editor again, highlighting how you could make your own courses, which was a great feature back then. The review section talks about the graphics being excellent, especially the sense of speed you get tearing over jumps, and the sound effects too, though the commentator wasn't the main focus. There's a rundown of some alternatives, like Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000, but it makes it clear Excitebike 64 is the top dog. The second opinion backs this up, praising the smooth animation and bike handling. Finally, it breaks down the ratings for graphics, audio, gameplay and challenge, leading to a stonking overall score of 94%. It confirms it was developed by Left Field, who really knew their stuff on the N64. This page dives into the review for Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000. It immediately sets up a direct comparison with Excitebike 64, which we just saw as the benchmark. The review suggests Jeremy McGrath feels a bit more old school, maybe like a SNES racer, questioning the handling and if the track dictates things too much rather than the rider. The section on muddy tires is a bit mixed. It mentions the bikes handle well initially, but then criticizes the control as jerky, saying it overemphasizes the track turning. It notes a useful high camera angle helps make things manageable. There's a Design for Life feature highlighting rider customization, letting you change names, colors and numbers, and importantly, it saves this to the controller pack. Screenshots on the page show the game in action, with the standard HUD showing position, lap, time, and speed/gear. One caption notes how sliding around corners is key to getting good times. Another small point under oily chains mentions a drawback is not appreciating the draw distance from the behind view, hinting at camera issues. The $64,000 question summary box lists points like clear graphics, 4-player support, and lots of tracks as positives. The negatives include jerky controls, being a bit too easy, tracks being too similar, and explicitly stating it's not Excitebike. This really cements where it stands in the hierarchy of N64 motocross games. It seems Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000 didn't quite hit the mark set by Left Field's effort. Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000 offers crisp graphics, but its track design is criticized for being bland and repetitive, especially the outdoor circuits. The game includes a stunt mode, with various arenas, and a low-gravity moon course. Officially licensed riders and 8 indoor tracks based on real circuits are present. A top-down camera view is also included. The game feels dated, reminiscent of older races. While the game has its merits, such as music and 4-player support, jerky controls and monotonous sound detract from the experience. The review also highlights the limited track editor. Despite a second opinion that disagrees with some of the criticism, the game is ultimately deemed inferior to Excitebike 64. With an overall score of 79%, it's considered an above-average off-road biking game. This page gives us a UK update on the much-anticipated Perfect Dark from Rare. It introduces the protagonist, Joanna Dark, and highlights the vast content with 17 missions packed with objectives that change depending on the difficulty level. Screenshots offer glimpses of the various locations and the game's visuals, including the unique view provided by the Farsight gun. The article builds on the incredible hype surrounding the game, positioning it as the spiritual successor to GoldenEye. It confirms the expansion pack is essential for the main campaign, a key point for N64 owners at the time, and praises the multiplayer modes. Perfect Dark truly delivered on its promise, offering a deep and challenging single-player experience, complemented by one of the best multiplayer modes on the console, living up to the immense expectations generated after GoldenEye. The Farsight gun was a game-changer, allowing players to literally see and shoot enemies through walls, a unique mechanic that defined the game's arsenal. This page continues the UK update on Perfect Dark, diving deeper into the gameplay mechanics. It highlights how the chosen difficulty setting significantly alters the experience, not just changing objectives but also unlocking entirely new areas within levels that aren't accessible on easier modes. This makes each playthrough a genuinely different challenge. The article also points out the vastly improved enemy AI compared to GoldenEye, noting that opponents are far more cunning and react intelligently, attempting to flank and use tactics. Another detail is the inclusion of gore and blood effects when shooting enemies, which was a departure from GoldenEye's less explicit visuals. Interestingly, it discusses a planned face mapping feature that would have allowed players to put their own faces or friends' faces onto characters for multiplayer deathmatches. This feature was ultimately removed late in development due to concerns about players enjoying simulated violence against people they knew. Screenshots display various environments from the game, including urban settings, interior locations like the Carrington Institute, which serves as a hub for training and accessing missions, and even a futuristic hover limo suggesting diverse level design. The overall impression reinforces the game's depth and the significant advancements over its predecessor. Perfect Dark on the A64 is lauded as a standout title, potentially the best ever on the console. Players utilize the Carrington Institute as a training hub. It features reimagined multiplayer levels from GoldenEye, like Temple and Complex. The game boasts impressive graphics, lighting, and atmospheric effects that surpass other popular titles. A vast arsenal of 40 futuristic weapons, including dual wielding, is highlighted. However, the expansion pack is a necessity for the single-player campaign and full multiplayer experience. Although there are minor frame rate issues in 4-player matches, the overall quality remains exceptionally high, earning a very favorable rating. The next page wraps up the Perfect Dark review, focusing on the multiplayer modes, highlighting how it arguably surpasses GoldenEye in this area, with co-op and counter-op options. It shows the basic N64 controller mapping for the game, and lists alternative titles like GoldenEye and Winback. The game scores incredibly high across graphics, audio, gameplay and challenge, earning a superb 98% overall, and is described as the dog's dangly bits. The rest of the page is dedicated to Cheat Central, offering codes for games including Gauntlet Legends and Battlezone, Rise of the Black Dogs, plus cheats for sports titles like Cyber Tiger, All-Star Baseball 2001, and International Track and Field. There's also a competition to win an Explorer 64 cartridge. This page continues with Cheat Central, kicking off with Excitebike 64, detailing how to unlock the Hill Climb game and the original NES Excitebike, plus how to access the cheat menu, and a complete trick list including character-specific moves for folks like Jim Rivers and Sarah Hill. There are screenshots showing the gameplay for the main game, the original NES version, and the football mode. Next up, Perfect Dark websites gives you the lowdown on accessing those secret areas on the Carrington Institute and Datadyne Corporation websites mentioned in the game, complete with login details and what you might find there, featuring screenshots of the sites and a character image of Joanna Dark. Then, for Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time, there's a section on composing your own tunes on the ocarina, showing the notes and controller inputs, accompanied by a character image of Link. Below this, there's an advert for the Explorer 64 cheat cartridge, boasting codes for loads of N64 titles, like Beetle Adventure Racing, Donkey Kong 64, Jet Force Gemini, Mario Golf, and many others across the page. Further down, Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000 lists a heap of stunt tricks you can pull off in the game, with screenshots showing the bikes and riders in action. There's also an advert for Cheats Unlimited, offering tips and cheats via a phone line and website. Finally, there are screenshots at the bottom from games including Summer Games, Command & Conquer, and a boxing title. This page is a double spread, showing off a special issue dedicated to 64 solutions on the left. It's packed with guides for big hitters like Resident Evil 2, Turok Rage Wars, Ready 2 Rumble Boxing, and the final chunk of the Donkey Kong 64 walkthrough, featuring plenty of pages covering maps, hints and cheats. There's an order form there too if you wanted to grab a copy. On the right we've got the Score Zone section where readers submit their top times and scores. This month features scores for races in F-Zero X, challenges in Legend of Zelda, times in Chameleon Twist, and points in Yoshi's Story. They're also put in the call out for new scores on games like GoldenEye, 1080 Snowboarding, Mario Kart 64, plus tough ones such as Mario Party 2, Battlezone, Global Assault, Quake 2, Jet Force Gemini, Donkey Kong, Tony Hawk's, Hydro Thunder, Asteroids, and Ridge Racer. They want proof, mind? This page continues with the Score Zone, where players battle for the top times and scores across a load of N64 classics. We've got records for Banjo-Kazooie, Wave Race, GoldenEye, Diddy Kong Racing, Micro Machine 64 Turbo, Space Station, Silicon Valley, and Star Fox/Lilat Wars showing off high kill counts. There are also times for Turok, Jet Force Gemini, Tetrisphere, Chameleon Twist, World Driver Championship, Beetle Adventure Racing, Top Gear Rally, Shadows of the Empire, and Snowboard Kids. It's pure bragging rights for the speedrunners and score chasers. This page continues the Score Zone from the previous issue, showcasing high scores and records for a whole host of N64 classics. The main feature here is a look at Ridge Racer 64. It's highlighted as the best version of the game yet, really worth the wait for us N64 owners. The article offers a comprehensive guide for players looking to improve their skills. Visually, you've got that iconic artwork of the character, Reiko Nagase, and some decent shots of the gameplay showing off the racing action and cars. There's also guidance on finding secret cars, specifically the Caddy car and the Gallagher 88 craft, which you unlock by completing certain challenges or the game itself. It also gives tips on mastering the power slides technique for getting around those tight corners at speed. Alongside the Ridge Racer guide, the Score Zone Challenge encourages players to push for the best possible times and scores across all the racing games featured. There's also a mention of the Ultimate Player and a steering wheel peripheral for racing enthusiasts. This page dives deep into Ridge Racer 64, giving players a cracking guide to getting the most out of the game. Building on the racing action we saw highlighted previously, it runs through how to unlock all the different cars by progressing through the championships, from the initial selection right up to the expert extra challenges. You can see the familiar face of Reiko Nagase there alongside screens showing the racing in action. There are also some top tips covered, like how to handle overtaking other racers without losing speed, mastering those tricky tunnels, and getting the start just right. It even points you towards tracking down the special secret cars, mentioning the unique Caddy car and the Gallagher 88 craft as bonus unlocks for those who conquer the game. All in all, a proper handy guide for anyone serious about mastering the Ridge Racer 64 circuits. This page gives us a cracking breakdown of the first two tracks in Ridge Racer 64, the novice circuits from the original Ridge Racer, and Ridge Racer Revolution. It lays out the tracks with maps and numbered points, showing you exactly how to tackle each section. For the Ridge Racer novice track, it talks about keeping your foot down on the straights and handling the sharp right-hand turn after the small tunnel, suggesting you release the accelerator and use a power slide. It also points out good spots for overtaking. Over on the Revolution novice track, the guide highlights the tricky turns in the dark tunnel and the need to stick to the inside lane. It then shows how to use the power slide effectively on a sharp right corner and hitting the racing line on a seemingly easy left turn that suddenly gets tight. A proper handy guide for anyone looking to shave seconds off their lap times on these classic circuits. This guide continues the Ridge Racer 64 walkthrough, focusing on two tracks. Track 3, Renegade Novice, is new to the N64 version. It features tricky turns and a chicane, with screenshots highlighting key areas like the start, tight turns, and power slide opportunities. Track 4, Ridge Racer Intermediate, is considered easier, but the competition increases. The guide recommends using faster cars. Screenshots and a map detail sections like a fast corner, power slide turns, a beachside chicane for overtaking, and a tunnel turn. The guide offers practical advice for navigating these circuits. This page continues the Ridge Racer 64 playing guide, moving on to 2 more intermediate tracks. First up is track 5, Revolution Intermediate, described as quite a tough circuit with tight turns, and a tricky chicane where power sliding is key. The guide highlights several points on the track map, showing screenshots, and offering advice for sections like the tunnel, a beach area, and the final bend. Then we move on to track 6, Renegade Intermediate, a longer course featuring plenty of sharp turns, emphasizing the need for fast reactions and a speedy car. This guide also breaks down key sections with numbered points, providing tips for navigating areas such as the nighttime tunnel, sharp corners requiring power slides, and the final push to the finish line. It's all about mastering those corners and keeping your speed up to secure the win. This page continues the Ridge Racer 64 playing guide, now tackling the expert circuits. Track 7, Ridge Racer Expert, is highlighted as a challenging course where you need to use your fastest cars and race cleanly. The guide points out key sections on the track layout, with screenshots offering advice on navigating the corners and keeping speed. Then there's track 8, Revolution Expert, which is described as even harder, with opponents trying to cut you off. Mastering power sliding is essential here to get through the dangerous turns quickly. Again, the guide uses numbered points on the map with screenshots to provide tips for each section of this tough track. This page continues the Ridge Racer 64 playing guide, moving on to track 9, Renegade Expert. Following on from the tough expert tracks on the previous page, this guide highlights the challenges of this course, particularly the tunnels, and stresses the importance of using power slide to maintain speed. As before, the guide uses numbered points on the track map alongside screenshots to give you the essential tips for navigating the course and aiming for that top spot. The page also features the Not Nintendo section, which looks at other media and products away from the N64 itself. This page carries on with the Not Nintendo section from the previous issue. It's all about cool stuff outside of our beloved N64 world that the magazine thought was worth a look. We've got reviews for classic films like Tarantino's True Romance and the legendary Bruce Lee flick Enter the Dragon on DVD. There's a mention of the ever-popular Pokémon Monopoly, which is exactly what it sounds like, taking the classic board game and giving it a Pokémon twist. They're also checking out some decent toys, like the Super Soaker Charger 600 water gun and a Walther P99 airsoft gun, plus some Final Fantasy action figures, and even a Johnny Bravo CD wallet for keeping your tunes safe. It's a bit of a mixed bag, but shows what else was going on back then. This page continues the Not Nintendo theme, featuring some lifestyle items like surfing-themed stationery and the incredibly popular Pokémon Team Rocket trading cards, which were causing a stir at the time. There's also a review for M. Night Shyamalan's groundbreaking film, The Sixth Sense, and a rather unique Pokémon talking mouse mat. However, the main feature is a massive advert for N64 strategy guides. They're offering a deal to buy any 3 of the featured books for only a tenner. The books cover essential N64 games like Turok 2, Banjo-Kazooie, The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, referred to as Zelda 64 here, Lilat Wars, Star Fox 64, and a comprehensive as of Nintendo 64 secrets and solutions across multiple volumes. These guides were indispensable back then for digging into every secret and finding your way through those challenging 64 adventures. This page is a full-on advert for subscribing to 64 magazine and picking up those essential strategy guides. They're pushing a mega deal subscription where you get the magazine delivered and can choose a classic N64 game like Mario Kart 64, GoldenEye, or Banjo-Kazooie as part of the package. There's also a big list of solution books on offer for huge games like Zelda 64, Donkey Kong 64, and Turok 2, which were invaluable back then. You've got all the contact details here for ordering via post, phone, fax, or email. This page is all about the Nindex, which was essentially their comprehensive guide to every N64 game they'd ever reviewed, all handily summarized. It's explained right there as your one-stop buyer's guide, constantly re-evaluating older titles against the new ones. They've got their rating system laid out, explaining that a 90% or above is a certified sizzler, and 95% or more bags a gold medal, marking it as an absolute must-own. There's also a key for the symbols they use in the index itself, covering everything from how many players can jump in, to what accessories are supported like the Rumble Pack or Expansion Pack, whether it was released in the UK, and the breakdown of the score and comment. They even define their genre categories. On the left side, you've got the order form for subscribing to issue 41, grabbing back issues with a list showing the covers of many available ones, and those mega deal options which offered a subscription bundle with a free game like Fin0x, 1080 Degrees Snowboarding, Mario Kart, GoldenEye or Banjo-Kazooie, or strategy guides for games like Zelda 64. This section details N64 game reviews, including title, publisher, multiplayer info, accessories, UK release status, issue number, score, and a brief comment. Special lists highlight top games. Our top 10 features Perfect Dark, GoldenEye, and Ocarina of Time. Top shoot-em-ups mirrors this, with Quake 2/3. Top fighting games showcases WWF WrestleMania 2000 and Super Smash Bros. The Test of Time feature revisits older games. Resident Evil 2 maintains its high score. Carmageddon 64's original abysmal score remains unchanged. Hot Wheels Turbo Racing sees a slight score decrease, deemed still bland. This page continues the extensive Nindex listings, showing details and scores for a wide range of N64 games. It also highlights some of the top-rated games by genre, including the 64 top adventure games, featuring the magnificent Zelda at number 1, racing games with Ridge Racer 64 and F1 World Grand Prix neck and neck, platform games led by Rayman 2 and the mighty Donkey Kong 64, and sports games topped by ISN 98. The page also rounds up the best of the bits, showcasing essential N64 peripherals like the standard Nintendo controller, the Grand Prix racing wheel, a 4 meg memory card from Datal, and the Ultra Racer 64 steering wheel, all recommended for enhancing your gaming sessions. Finally, it looks ahead at the 64 mag's most wanted games. This includes the anticipated Star Wars Battle for Naboo, the groundbreaking and adult-oriented Conker's Bad Fur Day with its vibrant, chaotic screenshot, the survival horror of Resident Evil 0, which of course never actually made it to N64, the highly awaited Banjo-Tooie sequel from Rare, and the much-desired StarCraft 64, which saw a release but was notoriously difficult to get hold of and quite different from its PC counterpart. This page is looking ahead to the next issue, putting a big focus on Rare's Perfect Dark. They're promising the complete guide to what they call Rare's masterpiece. You can see a cool image of the main character, Joanna Dark, there looking ready for action, along with a few screenshots showing off some of the gameplay environments and characters. It looks like they've really dug into the game to help you get through it. The rest of the page seems to be taken up by adverts for various game shops, clubs, and competitions, along with the magazine's staff list and some legal bits.